let's look at how to write a method. So the purpose of a method is so you can have a segment of code you can call as many times as needed instead of writing the code multiple times. So you have this one little bit of code that you call whenever you need it. Now, static methods mean there's only one and it's owned by the class. Now, there are non-static methods, but we are not going to be looking at those in this section. Now, to create a method, you must have the following: public, static, return type, and then the method name with parameters. So uh, we have static, the return type, int, float, string, char, or an array, or maybe it returns nothing and it's void. The name of the method, and then in the parentheses, the parameters. And then you can have as many parameters as you want. You can have 5 parameters of 5 integers, or an array and a string, all these different possibilities. Or maybe you have nothing. Maybe you have no parameters, and that's just an open and closed parenthesis. Now, methods also could be private protected, but those we'll look at in the future. Now, methods can only have return one thing or nothing. And if it's nothing, it's void. So that is here the return type. And methods can have as many parameters as desired. That's here, so you can have 1, 2, 3, 10, or maybe even 0 parameters. So let's look at a method here. So first off, we'll create int a and b, give them some values, and I'll call this method largest, which we'll look at in a sec. Now, largest doesn't return anything, so I don't need to set this. I can't set this equal to anything because it doesn't return a value. It's void. So you just call the method and send it the values that you want. So let's look at this method. So we got doc here, Java doc format here. The name of the method is largest. This tells us what the method does, and these tells us what the parameters are, x and y. So public, static, void. Void means it returns nothing. The name of the method, and then the parameters, int x, comma, int y. Now, my comment here, since it's void, it returns nothing, so we don't need a return statement. So there's no at return here in the comma. There's no at return because there was no return statement, so you don't need an at return there. All right, so largest prints out which parameters are largest. So if x is greater than y, prints that out. Else if y is greater than x, prints that out. Else it'll do this. Print out x is equal to y. All right, so let's run it. Let's see if it does what we think it's going to do. And it does. 3 is less than 4. 7 is greater than -2. Now, you'll notice here, when I'm here, I can do the main. I also can call the method directly. So let's do that. Let's send it 5 and 2. And you can see it prints out 5 is greater than 2. Now, one thing about methods is even if they have no return, you can actually still say return. And what happens is when it hits a return, it immediately ends. So you notice it's going to have this problem. It's like, hey, these are unreachable statements. And so it's going to cause a problem. That's saying, hey, it will never possibly reach those. So just having a return here is not a good idea. But maybe you have something inside your if statement where you're like, I want it to end potentially here. And that's perfectly fine. And that is the end of this lesson.